You worked with Frank Sinatra, you worked with Mankiewicz, you worked with Burt Lancaster. And this is your fourth movie. And you were, 1953, you're 8 years out of the service, you didn't have any acting experience prior to that. And in Mankiewicz, you're working with arguably the most intense, maybe the greatest actor of his generation.
Beautiful person.
What was that like?
Well, he was just marvelous. I tell you, to sit down and talk with that gentleman was just like going to school. You know, it was. You learned as you went along. You learned, and it was wonderful. We talked about everything: cabbages and kings, and who got up latest in the morning, and so on and so forth. But it's just one of those wonderful kind of things that you talk with people, you know. And he was that kind of a person. And we lost a great actor when we lost Mankiewicz, believe me. Well, you see what he did with Duke Wayne in Red River. My goodness.
It was a good Western experience. You'd probably argue the Wild Bunch, but Red River's a pretty good Western. But he was on the stories are during From Here to Eternity that his, and I presume that these are the stories on his other films too, and they are in fact, but his intensity, the way he threw himself into that character, he was very disappointed when he didn't win the Academy Award that year, extremely disappointed. Yeah. After for years saying that he didn't care about things like the Academy Award. But his intensity, he dedicated himself to the part. He didn't, well, you tell the Bugle story, because that's really a remarkable story about Montgomery Clift.
You mean about
learning how to play the bugle, even though he didn't like it.
He learned how to play a bugle, even though he didn't know it. But by golly, he did it. And you see in the picture, the intensity of that man when he was playing the bugle, of how he poured his heart out through that trumpet. That's something you don't see every day. That's something you'll never see again, believe me, as far as I'm concerned, because things like that come from here, come from the heart. It's done with all intensity and everything else that you can possibly, and you got to believe in what you're doing. That's the part that counts. You got to believe in what you're doing, and you got to believe that you know what you're doing. That's what it's all about, acting. It's the craziest job that you've ever seen in your life, but if you understand what life is all about, that's acting.
How many people have not seen this movie in the crowd?
What?
It puts us in a difficult position. Okay, so there are a lot of people who haven't seen this movie, so I actually don't want to give anything away. I want these people to enjoy it, those who haven't seen it for the first time. So without sort of telling people what happened, there is a dramatic fight scene between you and Montgomery Clift. So without revealing what happens in that scene, talk about how Fred Zinnemann initially wanted to shoot that and what ended up happening, because that's a remarkable story without sort of betraying how it
tell that story I told you?
Yeah, and without betraying how it ends.
Yeah. Going into the picture, I ran across this line that I had where I'm laying down.
Well, actually, no, because that I think that'll give it away. I'm talking about you guys. I don't want to ruin the movie. You can't, first of all, you cannot ruin the movie. How many people have seen it more than once? So, the movie cannot be ruined. You guys, that was originally shot, this fight scene, Zinnemann shot with stuntmen. Yeah.
Well, we went to work on a Saturday afternoon after other people had shot before us and everything else. And so they got together with the two principals, the two stuntmen who had thought up this fight and everything else. And the director says, all right, boys, come over here, we're gonna watch what these boys do, and then we have to, you know, to see whatever. So they did it. We did the show. And they went through the whole thing, and the director looked at us and he said, gee, that's beautiful, isn't it? And I said, yes, it is, quite wonderful. The way they handle themselves and everything else. He said, but it looks too professional. Oh? Which could only mean one thing. He wanted the actors to do it. So we said, okay, we'd love to try it, you know, hey, listen. So we worked all the time from Saturday afternoon until about 4 o'clock in the afternoon till about 5 o'clock Sunday morning. And when we finished, we were all black and blue all over.
Just you and Mankiewicz.
Yeah, all we had on was these shirts, Hawaiian shirts, and the rest of us were black and blue, believe it or not, from falling and everything else. And we didn't hold back the horses. What you see is only part of what we shot, because the thing that we shot was so terrible, I mean, so horrible, and they still have the original in the vaults of Columbia. That knife fight, they said it was the greatest knife fight since the days of Farnham, William Farnham. And